Awesome. Kate, it's time for us to obviously talk who's coming up next. And it's Gaurav Rao, obviously. A little about Gaurav. He's currently the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Machine Learning and AI at Scale. He's responsible for defining and leading business that extends the company's Semantic Layer platform to address the rapidly expanding set of enterprise AI and machine learning applications. AtScale was founded by members of the data team at Yahoo in 2013. They began working on the AtScale semantic layer after working on big data from trenches, dealing with the basic challenges of data scale, query performance, matrix sprawl, complicated data pipelines, and shadow BI. So obviously, Gaurav will be giving us insights into how to leverage a semantic layer for applied AI. Without any further ado, let's have Gaurav up here on the stage. Hey, Gaurav, we are thrilled to have you. You want to learn more about semantic layer, about how it is applied in AI, and the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Ravid and Kate. And thanks to the audience. Where's my music? I love that song that you guys came on to. I want that song now every time I go.
Should we have that for all speakers? That's
right.
good feedback, Gaurav. We're gonna take that into consideration for the next event. We're gonna remove ourselves from the stage. Have fun. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. And for the audience, ask some really great questions. If you can put the word question or letter Q in front of your comment, it makes it easier for us. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Thanks so much, Robert. Thanks so much, Kate. So, I wanted to start this conversation off with a little bit about machine learning and AI before I get into applied AI. And I think it goes without question that AI and machine learning has impacted and continues to impact both society and how we do business, right? From a societal standpoint, we're used to getting, directions on where to go. We're getting used to mobile payments in real time. We're getting used to recommendations on songs to listen to, shows to watch. My personal favorite recently has been House of the Dragon. And now I'm getting a whole bunch of recommendations based on watching that on other shows that I need to check out. And the reason why I bring up the societal point is because it's changing how we do business, right? We see enterprises and applied AI companies reaping benefits from utilizing AI for the business, whether it's to reduce cost, improve operational efficiency, improve top and bottom line margins, right? So actually generating new business models to create revenue streams. All of this is important. Now, coming back to the point of this conversation, this talk, I'm going to share two numbers with you, 554. And if I was to tell you these two numbers represented an investment and a yield, right, and relates to machine learning and AI, could you guess what that actually translates to and why we're here to talk about this? I'll pause, but I'll also give you the context. So 500, what does that number mean? IDC predicts that in 2023, annual investment and spend for machine learning and AI solutions will hit $500 billion. So that's one. The other number was 54, right? So what does 54 represent? Gartner last month did a study on production use of AI. And the study concluded that only 54% of AI models moved into production. That's 1 in 2 machine learning models never see the light of day. So we know machine learning and AI is important. We see some fast movers reaping the benefits of it. We're using it daily. Investment is up, but adoption and ROI still continues to hover and is gradually increasing. And part of that is because AI is still complex, but it lacks the business adoption, right? And what does that actually mean? So I can build, and we continue to see state-of-the-art techniques, state-of-the-art machine learning models, right? State-of-the-art latency, accuracy. All of that is fantastic, and the advances that we've made there have been fantastic. But coming back to those two statistics, if the predictions, if the insights of that machine learning model is not being applied to a business use case or a business problem, meaning those predictions are used, that machine learning model and that AI project is never seeing the light of day. So the opportunity for all of us here is, how do we take that massive investment and that massive spend? How do we take all of the innovation and advances that we continue to see in machine learning and AI, right? From early days where you used to manually train a machine learning model, figure out the relevant data sets, do your hyperparameter tuning, then, select the right features, to then training, deploying, and generating predictions. All of that has advanced significantly, right? We see AutoML tools that are making it simpler to train machine learning models and taking out all of that manual guesswork and labor. We're seeing pre-trained models, right, that people can just leverage off the shelf and retrain with their existing data sets. So what can we do to help drive adoption of AI, and how can we help businesses apply it? Well, this is where I think a semantic layer starts to come in. But before we can understand how to use that semantic layer, we need to understand some of the key challenges to delivering that business value. And I'd argue it's threefold, right? The first is, in order for a business user who's making a business decision to use a machine learning or AI prediction, it's got to be relevant, right? That's step one, is we need relevant business predictions. Businesses are dynamic, they're changing, right? If I'm doing underwriting or loan approvals, if the interest rate changes overnight, how I'm consistently applying a machine learning model to make a decision on who should get a loan and who shouldn't, that can change, right? And we need to be dynamic, not just on the business side, but also on the machine learning and AI tooling and ecosystem. So step one is, let's make those predictions relevant for a business user. Step two, and this is again another challenge, is machine learning and AI and BI and business decision making typically are in two separate environments. So how do I make machine learning predictions consumable for a business user, right? How can a business user making a business decision augment their existing tooling infrastructure, right? So their dashboards, I'm in, my BI tool of choice. How can I start to make better decisions in that tool of choice with machine learning and AI when I'm not a PhD in stats? I don't have an army of ML engineers or data scientists at my hands and feet. How can I do this? And then finally, once I'm relevant, once I'm consumable, how are the predictions explainable, but to a business user in their terminology, right? We've seen huge advances in ML ops, which are very much catered to ML engineers and DevOps engineers whose sole job is to make sure that the infrastructure and the machine learning model itself is fine-tuned to run in those environments. How do we bridge that and do the same thing for a business user who's making, dashboards and reports in their BI tool? So now we come to, how do I do those three things, right? How do I stay relevant? How do I become consumable? And then also, how do I explain to a business user who knows nothing about AI all of the relevancy and the importance of that insight so that they can go make a decision? And a semantic layer, and just think of a semantic layer as a logical layer between your data sources and your consumption tools that presents a consistent definition. And that definition can be in the form of metrics, dimensions, hierarchies, and they're immediately consumable in my tools that are connected from a consumption layer, right? So that could be a BI tool, or let's say I'm a developer working in Python. A semantic layer should be able to also understand that dialect and that tool choice. But connection is not enough. So the second part of a semantic layer definition is, once you can present a consistent view by connecting and supporting different dialects, both at the store level and consumption level, how do we ensure that it's discoverable, governed, secure, so that when you start to use the data, right, that's connected to a semantic layer, you can ensure that there's controls in place. You know who's accessing the data. You know the lineage and the history of the transforms that are starting to happen and being manipulated by the different tools that are connected to a semantic layer. And finally, think of a semantic layer as needing to also be performant, because everything I mentioned to date has been, it has to be at the speed of the business, right? So the queries we generate, whether it's through a BI tool or whether it's through a machine learning and AI platform via Python, all of that has to be performant so that you're getting results and insights very quickly in the connected tools and choices that you have. And so now finally, bringing this all together, what we're focusing on at Scale, which is building out the universal semantic layer, what we can do for AI is twofold, right? We can help share managed features, right? So if I've built a hub of business metrics via my BI reporting stack, I want to make that available to a developer. That could be a data scientist, that could be an ML engineer, that could be a data engineer, right? Who's going and building a machine learning model. We want them to start with what the business is already reporting against. We call these the actuals, and they can augment with additional features, additional input, right? That their, I'll say, ML pipelines demand. So that's step one. How do we bring relevant business features to feature discovery for a developer who's building a machine learning model, so that that machine learning model is starting with something that's already relevant to the business? And then second is coming back to this concept of a prediction. How do we make predictions more usable by a business user? So we've come up with the term semantic predictions. The moment a machine learning platform, it could be open source, it could be an AutoML tool, it could be your favorite end-to-end AI platform, once you've built and trained that machine learning model, now with relevant business features as an input, once you deploy and run that machine learning model, we want to write those predictions back into the semantic layer. And the importance of that is when you do that, that number, right? Prediction is a number. That number automatically inherits all of the business metric context you already have in the semantic layer. So when I'm making a decision in my BI tool that's connected to a semantic layer, I can understand in that underwriting use case, here's my model's performance, here's my model's accuracy, here are some of the features that I'm using, here's what's correlating now to that, loan being approved or loan denied scenario, right? So we actually start to take that exhaust from an ML pipeline, an ML lifecycle that historically has been in a different environment, and we bring that into the semantic layer. And by doing so, everything that's connected to that semantic layer automatically inherits that data and that insight. So when we come back to, applied AI and driving enterprise adoption of AI, if I can make the output of that machine learning tool relevant, consumable, and explainable via a semantic layer, right? Natively in that decision maker's tool of choice, right? That becomes the way that more predictions get used, which means more models will start to be deployed, right? And we start to see a higher ROI and a higher yield. And our goal is, let's take that 54% and let's get that up to 95%, right? With the amount of spend that we have in machine learning and AI, 54% is just not good enough. So that was my conversation. I'm open to answering any questions that you guys might have.
We have so many questions, Gaurav. Thank you so much for kicking this off. Amazing presentation. I love it. We definitely have way more questions than we have time for. So we'll have to pick and choose. And you just mentioned taking 54% to 95%. So I think we'll take Dustin's question here.
Yep.
Where he's saying of the 54% deployed, how many models ultimately realized the ROI promised in business cases? And maybe you can also talk about how do we get that number to 95?
Exactly. And I think, Dustin, that's a great question, because even when you deploy a machine learning model, it doesn't mean it's going to stay in production. And this is where even that 54%, I hate to say it, it actually drops down to somewhere between 18 and 24%. And there's statistics out there that we can share with you. And I think coming back to Kate, your question, it's not just about deploying, it's keeping it in production, which is where I think those three challenges on business adoption come into play. Businesses are dynamic. So the fact that, the relevancy of that prediction has to stay on demand, right? And I think that's why some of these models ultimately, I'll call it get stale, right? ultimately you have to retrain, you have to take them out, because as the data changes, as your inputs change, like in this underwriting example, interest rates are crazy right now.
Yeah.
Overnight, that can change, and that can have a drastic impact on what your machine learning model is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravi, I'll go to you for more questions.
Yeah, I think I have one interesting question here from the audience, which I wanted to pick. Semantic is asking, can we say that the at-scale semantic layer is helping organizations to become data plus AI plus human-driven from the data-driven? What do you think, Gaurav?
I love it. I love that they added human-driven there, because again, it comes back to both societal and us as people, how we interact with data, and it's not going away. So absolutely, at scale provides us almost a system of record, right, between AI and BI, so that as we have users of data, right, whether you're a decision maker in a BI tool, or you're, one of the teams that have gone off to go build these state-of-the-art sophisticated machine learning models, either way, you need sort of that bridge. And this is where I think at scale can help, right, with a universal semantic layer.
Yes, absolutely. And I love this question from Sunny. He's asking, are business leaders pulling back on machine learning and AI projects due to the lack of ROI and business insights and actions?
Great question, Sunny. In fact, they're actually increasing. There was a very recent study that's actually showing that in the pandemic and during the pandemic, they're accelerating. And it's because, think about it. As the supply chains change, they need to become more intelligent, whether it's logistics, whether it's going after their consumers or their customers. So it's actually ironically quite the opposite. We're seeing more investment in machine learning AI because they're seeing it as a mechanism to hit top and bottom line revenue. So when you're impacting, whether it's through automation or intelligence, that's one of the things you're not going to cut back, even in a recession.
That makes sense.
Right.
And we can't not take the question from Scott Taylor. He gave a great presentation yesterday. So we've got to take his question. He's asking, how is the semantic layer different than data mesh, data fabric, and all the other hot data management trends?
Great question as well. And, I always think about it, is your data strategy going to be centralized or decentralized? And I think a semantic layer, depending on how you choose to answer that question, can support both a data mesh strategy or a data fabric strategy, depending on how you've organized, right, that question on decentralized versus centralized data management.
All right, awesome. So I think we have enough time for maybe one more question. Ravi, you want to do the last one, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think I can ask one question to Gaurav. We saw the news about the launch of data science and enterprise AI capabilities within Semantic Layer. So can you tell us more about it?
Absolutely. So we were excited to launch 2 new features, right? So managed features and semantic predictions. And all of this comes back to those 3 challenges that a business user has. How do I stay relevant? How do I become consumable? And how can I start to explain, right, these machine learning outputs back to a business user? So our focus now is very much, let's augment what the machine learning AI teams are doing, and let's bring that intelligence back into the environment where decision makers are making decisions. And I would argue, the only way that we can do this today is with a universal semantic layer that acts as that system of record.
Right. Awesome.